Hello guys, welcome to Redditor's Revenge. Here we post amazing revenge stories daily, and if you want more content like this, please do subscribe to the channel and stay tuned with us. Moving on to our today's story. They say your school friends are your friends forever, but that's not always the case. I 24F have had my best friend, Laura, ever since we were in high school. I was a newcomer and she welcomed me with open arms, which I appreciated because I struggled a lot with friends as I had also just moved from another state. So, we weren't friends ever since we were children, but we were close enough in high school that she was pretty much the only person I hung out with. The thing is, though, being very close in high school doesn't guarantee that you will be very close forever. Even though we were extremely close in high school, college was a different kind of situation. We both went to different universities, so we didn't have the opportunity to stay in touch all the time, but we still met and hung out when we could. It was 4 years of just texting and meeting once every few months, and that was it. After college, I went back to my state to find work and I got a 9-to-5 office job. I was glad that I was able to find something at all, but I was worried about fitting in again after spending so many years away. Fate is tricky, though, as on my first day of work I ran into Laura, and it turned out she was also just hired. I couldn't believe the coincidence, but it somewhat made sense since we had the same major but in different schools. From the get-go, we started talking again and catching up. She didn't seem all that different, but she was more world-weary. In high school, she was this innocent nerd all the time, but after college, it seemed like she went through some stuff and had more of an edge to her. The first couple of months at work were fantastic. We had completely caught up and I felt like things were pretty close to how they were back in high school, but you could never recapture that flame. Laura knew more people in town since her university was in the state, so she would show me around and we'd go out on weekends a lot. Because we were both new, though, we had to figure things out together and we didn't have many workplace friends, as we spent most of our time together. Even though the first couple of months were great, things started to take a strange turn. Laura started missing a few days of work and she was almost in trouble. Anytime I asked her why, she told me that she was a little bit tired, and that she'd get better. She never elaborated exactly what she felt, but she did seem quite tired. Now, I wanted to help her as much as I could, but she always refused me to come to her house to help her. I covered a couple of shifts for her at work so she wouldn't get canned entirely, and I did what I could. She kept refusing to tell me what was wrong for the longest time until one day, I kept calling and she wasn't picking up. Something was up, so I and a couple of other people from work went over to her house to check on her. She opened the door and looked awful. I don't know what had happened to her, but she didn't look like she normally did. She welcomed everyone inside, and we brought her chocolate and flowers and wished that she got better. After the 2 people from work who came with me left, Laura sat me down to deliver a bombshell. She told me that she had lung cancer. I was shocked and I tried my best not to show it. I told her that I was there for her and everything and we discussed it. She told me it was still early stages so she could live with it normally, but she might get super tired occasionally. I stayed with her the whole evening and helped her with everything she needed. I knew that I might have to cover for her a lot at work, but I didn't expect it to go the way it did. The first month was alright. She didn't seem too tired, and she didn't even want to tell everyone in the office. She just told them that she had some extreme allergies and that she was taking medication for them. I had to cover a couple of shifts and that was it. Over time, though, things started to get a little bit too much. She would call me and tell me that she was extremely sick, and I'd have to go over to her house and help her with a lot of stuff like laundry and even cooking. I was pulling double duty, covering for her at work in the morning and helping her at home later. I didn't know if it would be like this forever, but I had a moral duty to help her. She called me one night telling me that she felt awful and that she was getting treatment the next day. The next day, I covered for her, but our boss kept pushing me. He told me that it was over for her and that she would get fired, so I told him no and that I would keep covering for her and doing double the work. He kept pressuring me and asking me why I was defending her so much, and I told him it was because she had cancer. As soon as I told him, he spread it around the entire office and she became a sort of martyr. On the days she would come, she got the attention and care of everyone who wanted to help her. This included gifts, food, and more. She explained everything to our boss and coworkers and told them that she was getting better, and that treatment was working, but she said this about 3 times in the span of 3 months. She would get extremely sick, call me and have me help her at work and home, and then suddenly get better and spend the week at the office as if she was perfectly healthy. I didn't want to doubt her, but the pattern of behavior was quite odd, especially since it was almost time to the 1st and 3rd week of each month. When she did come to the office when she was feeling better, I could see her trying as much as possible to appeal to a manager of ours. He had a soft spot for cancer patients as apparently his mom had died of cancer, so he became very sympathetic with her and helped her around a lot, and even gave her a ride home a couple of times. Of course, once she was home, I had to go and help her. I didn't understand why she would be so fine at the office in the morning but very tired and in need of my help suddenly at night. Something was a bit suspicious about this whole thing, and I had this gut feeling that I didn't like. I tried to test out a theory, so I called her and told her that I had the flu and that I couldn't come over that evening to help her out. She didn't say anything and I was sure she couldn't call anyone else. The next day at the office, she did come and didn't even mention anything. While talking with everyone else, she mentioned something about an event she went to last night. Boom, I had her in something and asked her how she went to the event, if she was at home tired the whole night and even needed my help. She got a bit nervous, but then told me that she felt better a couple of hours later, and went. I didn't know what to think of the whole thing, but I didn't like how she was using how tired she was to constantly seek out attention from the entire office. Our manager also kept piling more of her on my shoulders, and one time, when I complained that it was too much and that I couldn't handle all of this, he gave me this lecture about helping those in need, and that she might be living her last days right now. He made me feel guilty for being frustrated and doubting her, but I couldn't take it anymore, and I didn't like the fact that, unlike at first, I didn't feel any sense of appreciation from her. I tried to call her one time so that I would go to treatment with her to make sure she was fine, but she kept trying to get away from the whole thing and avoiding me. When I kept insisting, she told me that I was pressuring and embarrassing her, and that she didn't like to take anyone with her because she didn't like the feeling of vulnerability, and even started to cry on the phone. I had no idea it would be this extreme, so I let it go. I got so suspicious, so I did my research about cancer and its treatments. I spent a couple of days trying to find out all I can about the subject and her behavior, and the things she was doing did not line up with what I read. I called a doctor relative of ours and told him the whole situation, and he told me that something was up. He told me that there was no way she was telling the truth, so I knew I had to confront her. She called me one night to go help her with something around the house, and when I showed up, I asked her what she was feeling. I told her that I had done my research about the matter to try to help her, but she seemed upset by this and asked me why. I needed to find out for sure, so I told her that I knew she was faking. She looked shocked and stressed at first, but she quickly pivoted and looked angry. She started yelling and telling me that I was a fake friend and a horrible person for accusing her of something like this. She kept going on in this panicking stage that made her seem even more suspicious. She told me that I was just jealous that she was getting all the attention in the office, especially from Mike, one of our managers whom she liked. I told her that she was being ridiculous and that I couldn't care less what attention she was getting, but that her actions and behavior do not line up at all with what a cancer patient would go through. She faked tears as if she was crying and asked me to leave and not come back. A part of me felt guilty and sympathetic, but I was also sure she was lying, so I took it to the people who would know, her parents. She didn't have the best relationship with her parents, so I didn't know if she had ever told them, but it was worth a shot. I went over there and told them the whole thing, and they told me that they didn't even know anything, but that they wouldn't be surprised if she faked it. When I asked them what happened that drove them apart, they told me that during college, she faked this whole story about being pregnant so that she can get money from them, and made up a whole thing about abortion and struggling, and they found out it was all lies. It made sense now that she kept making up stories, but I didn't know why she would be making this up. The next day when I went to the office, I was met with so much anger and disgust. She told everyone that I thought that she was faking her cancer, which made things worse for me. I kept getting so many side eyes and people asking me what was wrong with me. I didn't know how to explain it to everyone, but I knew that I had to prove it. I didn't even have my normal circle sit with me anymore. She had completely taken over the entire office with pity. She was also noticeably trying to get closer to Mike, and it hit me that the entire thing might have been to get more attention from him. In the bathroom, I confronted her and told her that I knew she was faking and that when I prove it, all hell will break loose. She did look nervous, which felt good and supported my hypothesis. For an entire month, my life was even harder. I couldn't get through the day at work without feeling the toxicity. So, I came up with a plan. One night after work, I went over to her house and my phone was live streaming in my purse. She had missed the day of work because she was feeling ill, so I first needed to prove that she was fine. I wanted to make sure everyone on Facebook knew her lies, and I knew how to get it out of her. As soon as she opened the door, I was met with hostility. She spoke as if she was very healthy and even raised her voice. I told her that it was odd that she was acting like this when she was supposed to be sick at home. "You're only here to make my day worse, aren't you?" she said to me. I started telling her people at work were suspecting that I was right and that she was fine. She started being nervous at first, but then told me I was a liar. I confronted her with the college pregnancy story, and she asked me how I found out. I kept pressuring her and telling her that if she kept hiding the lie, the office would humiliate her, and I told her that Mike was on his way over here. She started to panic a little bit, but then under pressure, she started yelling, and told me that she is faking but that no one would believe me. She told me that if I kept yelling it for 100 years nobody would believe me and that I'd still end up alone and miserable while she got all the attention. I pulled out my phone and showed her the live stream, and the look on her face was priceless. She started panicking and I showed her how many people were listening. She immediately kicked me out and I couldn't be happier. The next day, she didn't bother showing up for work because she knew the kind of backlash she would get. She got fired immediately via email for missing days and lying about the reason. Everyone at the office apologized to me for the way they treated me and for not believing me, especially Mike. Mike told me that she was acting strange around him, and that she kept using her cancer as an excuse to ask him for favors and that it made him uncomfortable. I asked him if they had any history and he told me that they knew each other in college and that he rejected her a couple of times, and that working together was completely awkward because of it. I told him that she might have faked the whole thing because of him, and to try to get his attention, and I told him about the pregnancy thing with her parents. The whole thing was like a bomb going off at the company. The managers were furious at her for being played and they decided to sue. They came to me to testify, and at first, I was a little bit hesitant, so I told them to give me time to think. I wanted to take this time to try to call Laura and see if she had a change of heart and saw the error of her ways, but as soon as she picked up the phone, she started insulting me and throwing a tantrum, so I instantly hung up, called back the company, and told them that I would testify against her in court. She didn't appreciate the attempt, so I had no mercy. The company went through with the lawsuit, and ironically, as soon as Laura got the notice and found out, she called me and begged me to help her during all of this, and as she was genuinely scared. I took this opportunity to ask her why she did all of this, and she told me it was for Mike and to get attention in general because, during college, she faced hard times and became extremely lonely, that she developed this obsession with trying to have people care for her. A part of me sympathized with her, but we still went through with the lawsuit regardless, because a person who fakes pregnancy and cancer can fake a phone call asking for help easily. Her family found out and didn't even try to contact me to stop. After the whole ordeal, my life became way more stable. Work became much better and I was back to taking my normal workload. I even had enough time to volunteer for helping actual cancer patients, and this time with them gave me such purpose that I felt like I was doing something important. Now, here is the end of our first story, and I hope you guys are enjoying my content. So before moving to the final story, you can share your thought about OP's horrible and selfish friend, and how do you like the revenge? Please tell me in the comments section. Also, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to stay tuned with us for more revenge stories.
Now, moving to our final story. So several years ago, my friend, we'll call him Boris, and I would always help each other do the spring cleanup for our properties. This included taking out damaged trees, preparing garden plots, and taking care of our weed-infested yards. I was going to be first on the cleanup detail, so I prepared tools and implements the Friday before the big cleanup was to happen. Sharpening tools and chainsaw chains, lawn mower blades, and just getting everything in order. Among those tasks was mixing with 2-cycle oil, finished up kind of late and generally put things away for the next day. The next morning, Boris shows up with coffee and biscuits around 8 a.m. As we were sitting on his tailgate enjoying breakfast, my neighbors ride by in their beat to hell Chevy Cavalier smoking like a freight train. We will call them Rocky and Bullwinkle. Boris and I made the usual jokes about the amount of smoke pouring from the exhaust. Damn, bet they go to the gas station and fill up with oil and check the gas. We soon finished breakfast and thought no more about it. As we begin to get the tools laid out and have a plan of attack, I cannot find my gas cans. No mixed gas, regular gas, or gas can in general. That's when it dawned on us why the car Rocky and Bullwinkle we were driving was smoking so bad. I'm pissed, to say the least. Well, all Boris and I could do was go shopping for gas cans, gas, and more 2-cycle oil. After we returned, we saw Rocky and Bullwinkle pass by several times, but all in all, we got a lot done. The next weekend we dedicated ourselves to cleaning up at Boris's. A weekend or two go by and we have a family dinner at my wife's, Rocky, and Bullwinkle's grandparents'. Toward the latter part of the evening, we were having a few drinks. Most people had left and my wife's grandfather was shooting the breeze when I had to take a leak. As I was doing so, I saw a gas can with very distinct paint on it. I inquired from the old man about how it came into his possession, and he stated Rocky and Bullwinkle left it there. I simply explained it was mine as was another and loaded them in my truck. It ate at me every time that Po's car with my post neighbors went by. So I hatched a plan from a rotten egg. I went and bought a few gallons of gas, a few gallons of diesel fuel, and some other various oils. I made a concoction of these different chemicals and filled the new 6-gallon gas can I had to purchase. With some clean gas, I filled the lawn mower and cut some grass that evening, making sure Rocky and Bullwinkle saw me. Then I put everything away but forgot and left that rotten egg gas can out. I got up and went to work the next morning and didn't even think to check on the can. But when I got home, I checked and it was gone. My wife informed me that my plan must have worked as she watched Rocky and Bullwinkle go in and out with the car, not only smoking but spitting and sputtering as well. The last time they rode out, they didn't ride back in. They gave me about an hour of peace before they came over and wanted to know if I could look at the car and see what was wrong. If it could not be fixed on the side of the road, maybe tow it home. My response: I've had a long day and have a migraine, maybe tomorrow. I saw the panic set in when I told them that. That's when they told me they had no insurance and it was on the main road. Tough luck. So the highway patrol did run across it and had it towed. It was going to cost them around $500 to get it out of impound, plus they had to have current registration and insurance. The car wasn't worth it. Well, they're those type of people that good luck just falls on them, and the pastor of a local church gave them an old Taurus. Took me a few cans of rotten egg gas, but I got the motor to lock up after about a month. This time it quit in their grandparents' yard, so they scrapped it, and as luck would have it, they got their income tax returns. They bought a nice looking Ford F-150, but it began having problems too. It smoked badly. They did take it to a mechanic that eventually found the problem. He got the truck running right again for about $1,500, and I have never had any more gas come up missing. Now, that concludes our video for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Guys, let me know what's your opinion about this story, and you can also share your stories about your asshole neighbors in the comments section. So before leaving, please hit the like button and do subscribe to the channel to stay tuned with us for more awesome stories.